Good afternoon. I waited a little bit because I feel like there is a delay on this Wi-Fi. It's doing its little Wi-Fi notification. So we will see if the Wi-Fi drops. Nature of the beast that I am working with on my mom's Wi-Fi. But yes, welcome, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about my screen was reconnecting, so we'll see how long I can talk. Actually, this is a great example of what I'm about to get into. My mom pays like $150 for her Suddenlink internet, and the Wi-Fi is patchy. Some days it just doesn't work at all for $150 a month. And on top of that, this is the only service provider that they have in this rural area. So it's a system that's not working, right? It's a utility system that's not working. When we talk about Aquarius, Aquarius is about technology and utility systems, how to connect humanity, how to build that web with humanity, our groups, our networks, right? So this is failing. This is not giving people the Wi-Fi that they need, and Wi-Fi is very important to keep us connected. But I will get more into that later on. I want to say that first, apologies for being a little late today. I wanted to make some notes on Aquarius. Hi there, talking about the age of Aquarius and the great conjunction coming up on the 21st. I wanted to make some notes about this as far as my vision of the future. So this is not necessarily a prediction, but I am trying to speak these things into existence for the vision that I hold for the future, the vision that I am ready to create into this world, the utilities that I want to, the way I want to systemize my utilities, right? So the Great Conjunction is on the 21st, and it is a planetary alignment where Saturn and Jupiter will both be in Aquarius, and they will meet, they will be conjunct. And if you hear astronomers talk about it, you'll know that it is like the brightest star. It's a lot like the North Star in the sky. And it hasn't been this bright since like 1632, I want to say. But this alignment is ushering in the age of Aquarius because the last time that in 1632, would it be 1632? I'm not really sure. But the last age that we have been going through is the age of Pisces. So now we're moving into the age of Aquarius. I'm sure you know that song, When the Moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and peace will guide the planets, and love will stare at the stars. But yes, it is very new agey. If you are a fan of my page, you probably already know that I am very new agey, so I'm all about it. But we've been on the dawning for a while. We've been wanting to move into this new age for a while, and now it's like we're ready for it, right? We had an eclipse on the 14th. It was in Sagittarius. It was a solar eclipse, and it was a new moon. So energetically, I felt like that was like one little test, and there are some triggered people, y'all. I feel like what we will see is people really clinging on to old ideas that give them a sense of security. We'll also see even more wackiness, chaos, upsets on a collective level that are beyond our control as we're going through COVID. You know, this is something that none of us can control. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. There is a lot of unpredictability and things we have to do differently, right? But that was just like a taste to move us into this new age. And energetically, I know that not everyone is going to be ready for it. So when I start talking about these new ways to live, there's going to be a lot of people coming at me saying, I can't, I can't. Some of us can't work like that. Some of us can't do that. We have no choice. Because if you think about Pisces, Pisces does sort of have a victim element to it. So, it is about things being beyond our control. But as we move into Aquarius, this is taking more initiative as far as ways to innovate our systems, ways to change our systems that are different from what we've ever done before. So rather than thinking of tried and tested ways to operate in the world, to go about the world, and it doesn't matter what they are. If it's capitalism, socialism, anything like that, obviously capitalism has been corrupted. If you don't think our politicians would corrupt socialism either, you're naive and crazy. I don't think it would work in the US. I think the greedy people at the top would corrupt it horribly. What I think we are moving into is more of an age of self-governance. So I think we will collectively govern ourselves rather than rely on federal, like big oversight from all of the states. I think it will be done on more of a micro level, just out of necessity, because if you look at what has just happened, a lot of people are suffering from the coronavirus, from the pandemic, being laid off, being unemployed, and getting evicted, all of that. The government just issued like a $600 stimulus, but that's not going to be enough for a lot. The guillotine talk was fringe talk for a while, but I think they have a let them eat cake situation on their hands. And as more people run into these problems, I think torches and pitchforks are going to come out. And I don't know. It's not like a hopeful thing that I want, right? But I just feel like sort of them being so out of touch with how people are struggling, it's going to come to a head. I just don't see any other way around it. But like I said, these are more predictions, or these are more what I hope will happen. As far as predictions, like, I do kind of see it coming to a head. I do see us not being able to rely on huge systems of government like that. I think we are going to have to take matters into our own hands, take community into our own hands, and govern ourselves, not rely on any systems that we have been relying on, right? Relying more on, when we think about Aquarius is like groups of like-minded individuals, right? And Aquarians are forward thinking, they are futuristic. So these are, we're going to have to band together to sort of lead the charge. A lot of change actually does come at the local level. If you think about marijuana legalization, they have not legalized it federally, but as the states, move into medicinal marijuana, as they move into recreational marijuana, then the more states that move into that, the more likely it is to be federally. But it's still a Schedule I drug federally. But if you want better predictions, there are a ton of astrology people on here that have amped me up about the age of Aquarius. Astrolotta is great. She has my favorite. She had my favorite video on the age of Aquarius and the Great Conjunction. I might link it if I remember. I forget sometimes, right? Heather with astrology is good. Ascension for Astrology with Jenny Burak. Nadia Shah. But those are some I like. You might like others, right? But a lot of astrologers have been talking about it. And rather than talk about what I want for myself, because I am like, I don't want to spend a lot of time anymore complaining about these systems. They are systems that are falling apart. They are systems that aren't working. And I acknowledge that. I realize that. But I would much rather work to find an alternative at this point than to, you know, what am I saying? There's like a thump outside that keeps happening. I don't know what it is. Then rail against the system, right? Hold that thought. I have been doing this a lot on the coffee vlogs. I don't know why, but I think there is something going on with my bladder. I don't know why, but I have to use the restroom. I'll be back. Sorry. Sorry, guys. I think it's from drinking more soda while I've been at my mom's. It's funny because I was joking that my parents like think I need way more food and water or like drinks than I actually do. And I wish I could tell you that I have enough self-control not to drink these canned Cokes, but I don't. I don't. I'm sorry. It's like my dad. I'm only going to visit him for like 3 days of that I like am disciplined with my diet. And really all I need is like one sort of vegetable I can roast and have over 3 nights. But he's like, he called me and he was like, okay, I'm placing an order. And just for like 3 days of dinner, he was like, okay, so what do you think about a head of broccoli, 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts, a bag of carrots? And it was like, that is way too much. What are y'all doing? My mom has brought home like 8 different avocados, and it's like, those are gonna go bad. Anyway, love my parents, but man, it's a lot of food. Anyway, back to the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. So yes, I have had a lot of experiences recently about people getting triggered when I just say things like we need to do things differently. And there are some people who are not yet ready to imagine other systems, and they're like, well, some of us can't. Some of us have no choice. And I know there are a lot of woke people who are wising up, and like, I love you guys. I'm so grateful that a lot of people are shifting into this new energy. They're realizing like 5D consciousness. They're getting out of 3D paradigm. They're waking up spiritually. I love it. I don't feel as much of an outsider. I don't feel as crazy and weird. But at the same time, I have also been met with more little jerks, like triggered jerks. But anyway, it's okay. I'm just shining a light on what they need to bring to the surface. And they can kick and scream wanting to stay in their misery, but things are changing. Things already have changed with the pandemic, but they were things that were going to change anyway. One example is I have thought for years before the pandemic that the grocery stores as we know them are fading away, especially the like super stores like Walmart, right? Like the warehouse stores. I believe that there is way too much food that is created. There's like a surplus of food. We waste so much food. They throw that food out in the dumpsters. Sometimes some companies will like destroy that food, like pour soap on it and, you know, rip it up and all of that so that no one can eat it. Psycho stuff. And it's really crazy that like we waste all of this food and there's still people that go hungry. It's just a weird system. But they have that surplus of food so that they can visually keep this shelves stocked, right? So that we go into the store, we go into Walmart, and we see like, oh, there is plenty of food for me here. Let me buy all that I can buy with $200, right? Um, but it ends up being an overabundance, a wasteful way to live. And so I believe, like, even before this whole pandemic, I believed that we were moving towards more of a warehouse system of grocery delivery. And not having a car, I used grocery delivery before the pandemic often. I stopped using it because they could never get my dog food right, but maybe I just need to go to like a pet delivery service so that they can get my animal stuff right. But I liked it because it saved me a lot of time. It kept me from impulse buying, and although there is a sort of romantic interaction with like the produce section, you know, like squeezing the avocados to see if they're ripe, or smelling the cantaloupe or whatever it is, right, to pick the best produce. Overall, I appreciate delivery service systems better because it really helped me manage my time. And if we, and I felt like, again, years ago, before I even stopped owning a car, before before the pandemic, before I got my groceries delivered, I thought how much of a waste it was to sort of have that building, keep that building open. You're paying for electricity, you're paying for your employees, you're paying for property. Well, I guess you would pay for property in a warehouse system anyway, but you're paying for like liability stuff, you're paying for signs, marketing, all of that stuff. So you're paying all these unnecessary expenses just to keep a store open like that, right? And so the whole supermarket aspect has imploded on itself. Walmart has wiped out a lot of grocery stores in Oklahoma. In LA, there are a little more options. But in Oklahoma, it's pretty much like we used to have my mom lives in Cushing, Pipeline Crossroads of the world. But my mom lives in Cushing, and they used to have an Escott's. Escott's was a locally owned grocery store, but then a bigger shark swallowed up that fish, and they eventually ended up closing that store too, because that just happens, right? What I've found is a lot of companies will merge and then they will go bankrupt and then wipe out that store entirely. So now you can't even shop at the local grocery store. It does not exist. The only grocery store in town is Walmart. You can also buy produce at Brahms. Brahms is a unique place. I missed it. But Brahms is a fast food place. It sells burgers, but it's really like a dairy farm. So sells ice cream, milk, cheeses, all of that. And so it sells like dairy stuff and produce, but it's not this big supermarket thing. But you can like go in and squeeze those avocados if you want, right? And get yourself a burger and a sherbet freeze. Oh my God, I had a sherbet freeze the other day and I missed it so much. It was so good. But those are your only options here. And eventually, a lot of our jobs will be automated. I mean, they've already had, self-checkout at grocery stores. And that's not to say that this is not to be anti-worker, because what I really want for the collective is for workers not to have to work at Walmart, not to have to work at that crappy place. They work, full time, little to no benefits, and they have to get on food stamps even though they work full time. That's a system that's not working for people, right? So essentially, we are subsidizing this big corporation that has wiped out other businesses in town. So that's just one of many systems that have imploded that are not working for the common person. When I lived here, I was unemployed for 3 years, and people would always ask, like, "Why don't you apply for Walmart?" Like, no, no. That was the last place I wanted to work for. I didn't even like to shop at Walmart. I would shop at Escott's at the time, and like Walmart in very rare circumstances when I couldn't shop anywhere else, but wasn't about to work for that place. So anyway, let's get back on track. So I do believe that a lot of pedestals are going to fall down. A lot of systems that we have been used to are going to fall down. There are going to be a lot of people who get blamed, but and a lot of like fear and panic when these systems crumble. But I am actually looking forward to the crumbling because that means we can create something new. I want to create these new systems. So let's get into creating these new systems. The biggest system that I believe is changing is at least initially, immediately, we have been in a couple of years of Uranus and Taurus. I've talked about it before on this channel. And Taurus is our agriculture, it's money. And so a lot of that is changing already and will continue to change, bringing in this new age of Aquarius. And I think that is going to really show us different ways to live, right? So as far as agriculture goes, this was something else that people got triggered on recently is there was a person who was like, I want to go back to pastoral living. And I was like, yeah, I actually believe that we will move towards more local farming, meaning I know this is LA, but and so we do have sort of an easier time to grow a lot of items, but I do believe that it's possible if we all collectively work towards this system. I believe it's possible to do this anywhere that we live, but we have a gardener who, trims our trees, cuts our grass, and he will get guavas, he will get oranges, and I think they do pay him on top of that, but that exchange of fruits for the work that he does is something that could be done anywhere. You could grow a crop of carrots and babysit someone's kids and give them a handful of carrots as, they can grow a crop of carrots and then you can babysit their kids and then you could have that exchange. Am I saying that right? Anyway, there are just other ways that you can exchange. And I think as far as produce goes, thinking about farming on a local level is what we're moving into rather than on a mass scale. And I do understand, I do recognize that there are food droughts, but there are ways around that, including hydroponic systems, which when I was looking at the chart of the age of Aquarius, Pisces is in the second house, so I was trying to think of what sort of agriculture would manifest through Pisces, and I was like, duh, Pisces, water, hydroponics, and there is a hydroponic system when you look at off-grid living, when you look at like sort of eco-style living, where you have a fish farm and the fish, I know it's kind of gross, but the fish poop like fertilizes your water system. And it also, it's like a steady stream of water. So you're not putting more water into that system. It's like just a flowing water. You don't have to add more water to it. So if there is a drought, if there's a water shortage, then you could definitely grow a tower in your kitchen. And I think the kitchens of the future are all going to have at least a small hydroponic system in them, like you would a refrigerator. It could be this whole separate appliance of hydroponics that you just like pick a apple off of. Well, I guess you couldn't do an apple. Could you do an apple in hydroponics? Anyway, you could at least do like a salad bar that's a hydroponic system, right? But I think we will move more towards like fish farming and local hunting. I think a lot of us are waking up to the dangers of factory farming. If you are vegetarian or vegan, that's great. I fully believe that not everyone can be vegetarian or vegan, but I do believe that we need to change our systems of fishing, of hunting. I feel like men or masculine energy could benefit from a form of aggression, like a system where, and this is adding like a capital element to it, but a system where there's a business of where it's like a big land and they have deer on the property, and you can rent a gun from this business and then shoot you some deer, and then you have deer for work, and they get or for food, and they can trim the deer for you and all of that. But I think it would help with y'all's rage, but not just deer. It could be other animals too. Sort of get that out of your system. But as far as money and work goes, we are already seeing a change as far as cryptocurrency goes, as far as Bitcoin goes. I am a little on the fence about it. I know that I need to invest at least a little in Bitcoin, but I am worried that because it's digital, it could be taken away at a moment's notice by like cyber hackers or the government or anything like that. And I've said on this channel before, I like cash and I don't care. I like cash for manifestation techniques. You can feel it, you can smell it, you can touch it, you can see it in your hands. So I still like cash. I still work with cash. If I were to set up a community, which I'm about to talk to in a second, I might still work on the cash system just because I like it so much. I like the exchange. I like to exchange things in someone else's hands and look them in the eye while I'm doing it. And I feel like there is an energetic exchange in that versus just like plugging your little like credit card chip into a machine and not even looking at the cashier, putting in your PIN and taking it out, not even like exchanging anything. That's so like, meh to me. I mean, I do it, but I would rather deal in cash. I know a lot of people hate cash. Ew, germs. But I like it. But something else about money. Uranus and Taurus, the last time Uranus was in Taurus was the Great Depression. So we did notice a change in agriculture. Oklahoma was the Dust Bowl. Oklahoma had to develop irrigation systems because they didn't have enough water to irrigate the land to grow the crops. So they had to build man-made lakes to feed into that ecosystem, right? And I think we will have to change our agriculture systems in this age too. But also during the Great Depression, stock market crashed and, people were poor. And no matter who is president, I do feel like there will be some crashes. I have been reading these articles over the past few days that's like, economists are shocked that people aren't spending this much on Christmas. You are shocked about that, really. you're shocked that everyone's laid off and you know, don't know when their next paycheck will be, don't know, you know, how they're lining up at food banks, and you're shocked that they're not spending more money on PS5s. Okay. but, you know, we're already seeing that come to a head. I told you about stimulus checks. They aren't enough for a lot of people. We definitely have a problem building wealth, increasingly have a problem building wealth. There's the 1% versus the 99%. And they have gotten richer during this pandemic. And, you know, I had to burn through my savings. I'm grateful for my savings, but it was for that house, for the community. It was for the Age of Aquarius community. It's okay. It's okay. I have had to change some of my belief systems and evaluate how my relationship with money. So I do feel like I'm more in the flow of abundance and I can get it back and all of that. But it was a blow to lose that savings, but grateful that I had it. And on that note, millennials and Zoomers especially, they have no job security. I saw at least 4 different layoffs in 1 year from a corporation I worked for years ago. And they were major layoffs. The last one really irritated me because 1, it was around the holidays, and 2, they laid off experts in their field. So it was like the only guy in the office who could do this certain thing, and we would go to that guy to help us with certain problems. And they laid him off because they didn't want to give him raise. They were paying him too much, and they didn't want to like keep giving him raises every so often, right? And there was a lot of outsourcing and yada, yada, yada. Big corporations suck. But my generation, we will probably not see Social Security, no retirement. We have had stagnant wages. They have not increased as inflation has occurred. We've worked overtime, more overtime. At the place I just told you about that laid off, had 4 rounds of layoffs. I worked 45 hours a week there. I also had a side hustle that was tarot and astrology, and I make some off of that. It's unpredictable. I might make, I don't know, $100 to $200 a year off of it. I mean, it's not like, it's very sporadic and very like, I can't count on it as a full-time job. I know there are full-time tarot readers, full-time astrologers who can make a living, and that's what they're meant to do. But as a side gig, you know, it did not pay off. But I was spending maybe 20 hours a week doing that. So working 45 hours a week at it was a post-production place. After the movie's done, we tie up loose ends. So I was in the industry, but I was spending 45 hours a week at that job, 20 hours a week in commute. That's another story. And then another 20 hours a week on this side gig, so that my feelings were that if I hustle enough, if I make enough money on this side gig, then I can, you know, do this part-time and then pursue my true passions on the side, my writing, my producing. But what ended up happening is I would just get so drained of that energy working 65 hours a week, being in commute for 20 hours a week, and not having very little time to put the energy and effort into the things I really loved, right? And that continued even at my last job. They were actually paying me a living wage. So the thing about the 4 layoff a year job is while I was working 45 hours a week, while I was working 20 hours a week on the side, you know, I was still living paycheck to paycheck and on this loop of payday loans that I could not get out of. And then whenever I quit that job, I was making more at the other job and was making a living wage, but and was able to save, and that was nice. But I still wasn't able to have the time and the energy to do what I really wanted to do. So building up that security to, do what I really wanted to do was not the path that I thought it was going to be. So we worked more overtime, and yes, I did get compensated for overtime. It was like time and a half or something. But still, even with time and a half, I was still caught in that loop, right? But there are rising tuition costs, rising housing costs, bread, milk, gas, everything, every price is rising, but our wages remain stagnant and we put in more productivity. The productivity shot up and yet we had stagnant wages. And if you look at my generation, and especially, like I said, the Zoomers after us, my generation, we have less sex. We are not getting married as much, fewer relationships because we're working so hard. And it's crazy because every time we complain about it, we're told like we're lazy and entitled. But it's like we were working, like some of us were working unpaid internships to build up this experience thinking like one day this will pay off, and it just never did for a lot of people. So we were giving free labor with our time. So, as far as resources go, we always think about money and wages are important, but there's also that time, that energy. Time is a resource, and I felt like a lot of it was wasted. And not only that, but a lot of these jobs that have been created, I hate the term job creator, but that's another story when I get on a rant. But a lot of the jobs that were created were middle management jobs. So we were creating products for other people and not creating products for ourselves. And putting all our energy into those products, but not getting enough energy for ourselves. And a lot of those middle management jobs, like, it's about sort of outsourcing a service because you overpromise for a client, right? I don't want to get into that because they might hire me. So I won't talk smack on them today. But all I'm saying is I just feel like, it was a learning experience, but I feel like a lot of my time was wasted giving all this energy into someone else's creation, into someone else's product, sort of exploiting my labor, exploiting my energy, and not being valued, not being able to create my own products, right? And the gig economy, side hustles actually did form out of like the millennial generation because we had no other choice. It's not like I love to wake up and grind until I have no energy left to have fun and date people. It's that we have no other choice to make rent, but work all these side gigs on top of full-time gigs. So, this system isn't really working for a lot of us. And I think people are still stuck in thinking that they have to be part of that system. And even though I knew it was BS, I was even stuck in thinking I had to work in that system to pay bills. But getting laid off was actually a big wake-up call because I had done everything that I was supposed to, and it just did not pay off the way I was told it was supposed to pay off. So the people that were triggered when I said that we can't work that system anymore the other day, they were saying something like, well, just because you want to work at home in your PJs and not interact with anyone, some of us want to actually work and interact with people or something like that. And I'm not even saying everyone should work at home in their PJs, although I do think more of us are moving towards that work at home mentality. Yes, there is Twitch. Yes, there is OnlyFans. Yes, there is X, Y, and Z. YouTube that I'm doing now. Some people can make a lot of money from YouTube. It has not been a payoff I thought it was, but I am still grateful for the passive income. It's just one of many things that, one of many platforms that give me this opportunity. But I think instead of thinking of it as like this solitary experience that we do alone at home in our pajamas, we should look at it more like take it to the next level of, instead of hustling for ourselves, self-promoting ourselves to death, right? Being on Fiverr, being on Etsy, being on Patreon, being on this. We should move towards community-based gigs, right? So a team of friends, right? Because it's groups, Aquarius, providing these services for pay that they're worth, right? One of the things that was a blessing in disguise whenever I was unemployed for 3 years and then I started housekeeping was I could set my own price, I could set my own value, right? And if you didn't like it, then you weren't my client, right? I loved how there wasn't a boss telling me what to do, and you could think like, well, you're working for that client, but the client service relationship is very different than a boss-employee relationship, because if a client was disrespectful to me, I could just say, okay, bye, and go find another client, right? They could find another housekeeper that was better suited for them. But there was no sort of overlord of this work to have power plays with me, to tell me that how dare I wear a headscarf, or how dare I brush my hair in a meeting, or whatever the hell they want to bust me on. I had that relationship with my client. I valued that relationship with my client, and those relationships were monumental in helping me realize my own sense of value. So I think that's the paradigm shift that we're moving into, is that the value that we hold on ourselves is way more than what we have been, than the matrix that we have been feeding into. Even like if you realize that it's bullshit, you can still feed into that paradigm by thinking there's no other way. And I have been there before. But just because I don't want to work in a cubicle under fluorescent lights for an egotistical boss who can replace me like that and doesn't value anything that I do, treats me like garbage, just because I don't want to do that system anymore, doesn't mean that I don't value work, that I don't value service, and that I'm not interacting with people. So we need to think much bigger about how we do jobs, what sort of jobs we're doing. Like I said, a lot of this is like middle management, like a middleman type of job, and I don't know if it's worth it anymore. I also believe that we are moving more towards bartering for services, maybe even like bartering, like I mentioned earlier, bartering for oranges, bartering for carrots, whatever you grow, but also bartering for services. Like you give me a haircut if I babysit your kids, right? And that is thinking about our time, thinking about our service, rather than always just constantly thinking about money, money, money. And yes, you need to have money to survive. But if you need money to get a haircut, you can babysit someone's kids to get that haircut instead of babysit someone's kids to get that money to get the haircut. So in a sense, the money that we have been using is sort of this middleman that is kind of pointless in a lot of ways, right? I told you guys the other day about the ad I placed on Craigslist for dog diapers, and the sweet lady who exchanged fruit cups and oranges, and she shared some gardening tips with me. It was very sweet. So more of those systems, right? Like that lady did not need to go out and buy a $14 a new $14 doggy diaper bag, right? And she, in turn, sent me some food that lightened my load as far as having to go out and buy that food, right? That was a little snack for me that saved me money on snacks that I gave to her in exchange. So I think moving towards more of a mentality of exchange rather than money, 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 money. Like the world is driven by money. I think that's what we're entering into. I also think our work life, this has been talked about before the pandemic, before the age of Aquarius, Great Conjunction talk. But like I said, productivity has gone up. Wages have been stagnant. So I don't really think we need the 40-hour work week anymore. I think 30 hours is fine. If you want to pay us more on those 30 hours, great. If you want to keep our wages the same and just have full-time benefits from 30 hours. Okay, hold on. I gotta check out what this knocking is. Why? Why? Is it the wind? I don't understand. We have had snow, so I'm wondering if it's like ice or something, icicles. I don't know what it is. If you worked 30 hours a week, then you would have more time and energy to invest in those side projects that really are your passion and make more money at those things, right? And actually have a life, actually have a quality of life. If someone is offering me a 40-hour week job, unless it is a TV writing gig, you know, I'm not really, and I realize like TV, you have to work like 60 hours a week, all that. But unless it is, you know, my ultimate passion, then I really have no interest in going back to that system. I would not be too prideful to take like a 20-hour a week waiting tables job. I kind of like those labor jobs. I feel like I'm providing a service. They help me as far as like cardio, like that sort of mindless labor takes my mind off of things. So sort of empties my brain so that I can put that brain activity into my work. And, you know, those sort of things aren't prestigious. Like I said, housekeeping was one of my favorite gigs, and it's not prestigious, but it gave me a lot of mental activity to pursue what I wanted and have that creativity. So anyway, I just think we need to reevaluate our work life. You know, and there are some people who are like, I just want to work 5 hours a week. I guess it's okay for them. When I first moved to LA, I dated this guy who was super spiritual, like even more spiritual than I am. And I think that there was a clash there. So whenever I date people now, after him, I think some people think like they need to be spiritual, like they need to match my spirituality. It's like, no, honey, no. You do not need to be like a monk, a Buddhist monk or anything. Please, you know, take me outside of this. Give me a break from this. But no, it it was a little too much. But one of his things was to have a 5-hour work week, and I do still have that need to work hard and to. I have my sun in my 10th house. I have Capricorn in the first house. I need to work. I need to feel like I'm doing something, providing a service, and being lazy is a challenge for me. But I think that extreme would just drive me crazy in living day to day. I would just be judgy about it. I would. Got to be real. And like I said, I don't like to have all these side hustles. I don't like to work myself to the bone, but I do need some sort of work, some sort of service, some sort of need to feel like I'm creating a product, creating a service, being part of the world. And animals are like that too. Bees make honey, dogs herd cattle. The ecosystem of the world is working. Trees breathe out oxygen. We give them carbon dioxide. Everything in the world works. We need to too. Anyway, let's move on to housing because this is my favorite part. So before all of the Great Conjunction talk, before of the Age of Aquarius talk, I had been saving to buy a house this year. And like I said, it didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. It's okay. It's just a redirecting, right? But this whole pandemic experience has made me realize I was so right in my intuition about that. I know it sounds like a crazy way to live. I already talked about it earlier, the earth bag homes. I'll try to link it down below, but not always good about that. I was right in my intuition because as the pandemic was unfolding, it was more reason to live this way. So basically my feelings are, a lot of people will tell you that you can't have a home in LA, and that's, again, feeding into a system that isn't working for a lot of people. If you did it like the traditional system, no, you can't have a home in LA. It's like $5 million for a 400 square foot 1-bedroom house, right? It's if you think about it in traditional ways, then no, I guess you can't go about it like that. But if you think outside the box, if you think about it in an Aquarian way, then yeah, you can. And one of the things about Aquarians is they are a collective. They are groups, right? And so I think a lot of Americans especially are too selfish, and that's what leads them to getting in debt way over their head. And I feel like the mortgage system does not make sense. It's outdated, and we need to move away from that. So basically, we think of homeowners saving up to put a down payment on the house. So you paid off your house. And then you take out a mortgage from the bank and you pay this mortgage every month. But essentially, the bank still owns your house. You own maybe a partial amount of it, but you don't officially own your house until you have paid off the bank. And those interest rates are going to banks who get bailed out every time they gamble with someone's money. It's legal to... They make accounts for people and, gamble with their money and don't even face any consequences for it. All the bank bailouts, all the stimulus funding for banks that don't need it, and just thinking about the system in general. I mean, if you rent, then you pay to your landlord. Your landlord pays the bank for its mortgage. The banks pay these warlords to fight these endless wars that none of us want. Who owns the earth? Who owns the world? It's kind of a crazy system that we're living on. And I'm so glad that people are waking up to this, because I want property ownership. I want my own house. I don't want to rent anymore. But this is just how it is right now. But rather than being doom and gloom about not being able to have my own house, like I said, we're too selfish. We could easily collectively get a group of friends, buy a plot of land, and set up our own tiny homes, set up our own, in my case, earthback homes. I want at least 4 home people to go in with me, and I want these to be like-minded people, 4 groups of people, so it could be 4 different couples, or 4 different single people who just want to own their own home, 4 families, whatever the case may be. But if we all buy that land, if we all work to build your own property rather than relying on the property that you already have. So we all buy that land. We all help each other build our home. We share a vacuum. We share a big kitchen. We share the nights that we cook. We share the nights that we clean. Then the tasks aren't so overwhelming. The tasks aren't so daunting. The ownership is not so daunting. So we started off this video complaining about my mom's Wi-Fi. So she pays $150. Her Wi-Fi is spotty, and that is her only option. So I fully realize that some options are limited, right? But let's say you wanted to have this sort of system in this area that I'm in now. You can go in with like 4 to 6 families, buy a property, help each other build their separate homes. I do not want to live in some Charles Manson big old mansion with a bunch of people. I already do that right now. It's not Charles Manson, but I do live with a lot of roommates. I share a bathroom with like 2 to 4 people. I hate it. I get annoyed with my roommates. I know, like, they're great in many ways. Take care of my dog when I'm gone, give me rides to the airport, whatever the case may be. But I found myself annoyed with like little things like them dragging their feet or whatever the case may be. But I don't want a huge house where everyone, like 15 people live. I don't want that kind of communal lifestyle. I do want our own small spaces, but maybe a shared community space, like I said, a kitchen. Wi-Fi. So in a state like this or an area like this, you can go in with 4 to 6 families, build your own home, and get a stronger form of Wi-Fi. You could hire someone to put better fiber optic, whatever they are, and not get so many shortages because you have that collective way to pay for it, and you wouldn't have to pay $150 just for your own house. You could split $150 among 4 to 6 families, right? And then just all collectively share that Wi-Fi. But we've become so selfish that we think we need our own home on our own land and our own car, and it's just like a one-to-one type of thing where tragedy at the commons, man, tragedy at the commons. Same thing goes with public transportation. Everyone wants a high-speed rail system, but no one wants to be the bigger person and take public transportation on a regular basis. They all want to drive their own car, and the more they drive their own car, the more the auto industry clips the public transportation out of the narrative because they can show it as like public transportation isn't needed because people don't take it. But people don't take it because the public transportation isn't that great. But public transportation isn't that great because people don't take it. So the more you take it, it's like a supply-demand thing, right? So the more you collectively practice these systems that you want, the more likely it will be mainstream, the more likely it will be available, the easier it will get. But of course, there is that initial growing pains of the situation, right? But even on a collected land, you know, it would be a lot easier to have that system I talked about earlier of that trade agriculture. So, you know, one house can own chickens and another house can own fruit trees, and you can exchange food in between, and no one goes hungry. And of course, you might have to get jobs outside of that. Even if you owned the property outright and you weren't paying into a mortgage, you weren't paying into, I mean, you have to pay like property taxes and stuff like that, and maintenance fees and all the, or fees. See, I'm stuck into the paradigm. Maintenance costs. You wouldn't have to shoulder as big of a burden as if you were to just do it by yourself. And it doesn't mean, again, that you have to live in a Charles Manson big old house where you get no autonomy and no independence. It just means that you have to think on a more collective and smaller scale for yourself, that isn't so like constantly singular, single use, single serve, single size, right? Um, and that comes to a head, like I was talking about. You know, as a single person, I have to cook my own meals, but I also have to wash my own dishes and put my dishes away and all of that. So, and take out the trash. So, if you had a team, then a couple of people could cook the meal, and then a couple of people could clean. A couple of people could wash dishes, a couple of people could take out the trash, and it's not so daunting for just one person to do all these tasks, to live this way, right? Um, it was for cost efficiency and to get off of sort of utility companies who um, price gauge. A price gouge? Is it price gouge or price gauge? I don't know. But of course, I wanted solar panels for that reason. I am still not sold on the composting toilets. I think I would still be in the like plumbing paradigm. I do not like composting toilets in the tiny house movement. That's just something I haven't quite got to yet. Ooh, but definitely solar panels, cisterns where you store water. But in recent news, just yesterday, I found out that Russia has hacked some power grids in the U.S. I think what I read was they hacked Austin power grid for like months now. So when you think about it that way, and not just thinking about Russia, it could really be any country, how vulnerable that those power systems would be. Why don't we just move more towards solar electricity? Because then we wouldn't be reliant on a system that can be hacked, right? I had something I wanted to say as I was saying that, and did it leave my brain? I think it did. Solar panels, power grids. I forgot. I don't know. Let's see if I forgot anything else. Nothing I really want to talk about. I think I have made myself clear. But and I do believe that I don't need to buy a piece of land off like in Bakersfield or something. I believe I can do it in LA. The area that I live in now, El Sereno, I love it. I love living on top of a hill. Some of my neighbors own chickens, so you can hear the roosters crowing in the morning, and so I think they're egg friendly, chicken friendly, and like I said, we have 4 to 5 fruit trees. Is it 5? Guava, avocado, fig, orange, grapefruit. Yep. We own fruit trees, and I grow veggies on my porch. I also love the area too because I I watched a video today from, I'm going to mess up her name. Soul Awaken? Ah! She's a tarot reader, dreads, very positive energy, soul, doesn't matter. Anyway, her video was The Waters Will Rise, so you might research that if you're interested. But she got a vision that people on the coast might suffer climate change consequences from waters rising. And we know this, but the vision she got was like it'll be a little quicker and more unexpected than they thought. So not living in Santa Monica doesn't devastate me. I do actually like living on that hill, and it gave me comfort to know, like, I'm glad that I'm on top of a hill instead of on the like coast. And of course, there's the San Andreas Fault, which everyone's scared about. I guess I could the ground could crack open at any day and I could fall in. I'm not even going to put that in the universe. Cancel, clear, delete. But I do kind of want to heal. And at least for now, I do want to stay in LA because that is my purpose and direction. Eventually, I might be open to somewhere like Austin. I do get seasonal depression, so I think I want to keep it like relatively sunny and not too cold. But my big Oprah dream that I sort of envision for the long term is to create more regional production companies. So Austin would be a great place for me to start. But there's just a lot of things I want to do in LA first. So with that being said, the community that I want to grow, these like-minded individuals, I kind of want them to be in media, media-minded, bohemian-ish, but more like production, film and TV types, so that we can work together on that community, right? So it's not working at home in your PJs, but it's like this group that lives on the same property and provides the same service, right? So that's my vision. Hope it will come to be. If you think I'm crazy, I might be. But I might just be a visionary as well. So let's hope it comes into being. Yeah. Have many ideas about this. Didn't cover them all, but that's okay. If you're interested about a community like this, reach out to me. I believe I provide my email down below. If I don't provide my email, I know I provide my Twitter. You can reach out to me there. What else? How else can you? Email. Yeah, I can't remember if I provide my email. Anyway, tangent. But if you are interested in that kind of lifestyle, hit me up, HMU. And I will see you on Monday. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I will be at my dad's, so I will probably not talk about esoteric subjects, New Age subjects. We'll see what I do talk about. But have a good weekend. Happy Friday, and I'll see you later. Bye.